January 23rd is the birthday of one of the greatest patriots of our country, namely Subhash Chandra Bose. Today we are inaugurating the office of the Indian Economic and Culture Center at Coimbatore. This center has been involved in studying India from the native perspectives for the last 23 years, going to different parts of the country, finding out the functioning systems that are responsible for keeping this country alive and vibrant. The entire education system today is largely Western oriented. As a result, we are not able to see what is happening at the ground level. So the Indian Economic and Cultural Center has been engaged in this kind of work. To understand the background, we have to see the bit of history of India and the present situation. India is not just another country, she is a civilization, an ancient civilization, perhaps the longest living civilization in the whole world. If a civilization had to survive, then it must have had strong fundamentals. When we study the background of India, we come to understand that India had very strong economic and social fundamentals. Now, for the last 35 years, there have been studies going on in different parts of the world, especially western parts of the world, to study the economic systems of the last 2 millennia. And one of the most popular studies was done by OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, under the leadership of noted economic historian by name Angus Maddison. So a team of economic historians and people from different walks of life, they joined together and they have been engaged in this study. After 17 years of study, they came out in 2001 with a big report. It's called A History of World Economic History, a Millennial Perspective. The report says that in the last 2 millennia, India remained as the most richest economy in the world for at least 750 years, almost 85% of the time. So when we see the beginning of the common era, that is 2019 years back, during zero CE, India's contribution to global GDP was 32.9%, almost 1/3. China was second to us with a contribution of 26.2%. So India and China together dominated the global economy, with India remaining as the most dominant power most of the time. So this is our background. This is not just our full background, not just in economics. We excelled in many different fields, almost all the fields, whether it is science, technology, literature. So that is how we lived. But unfortunately, we were subjected to attacks from alien forces during the last 1000 years, and especially during the British period for about 150-200 years. We were subjected to all sorts of assault. As a result, we became one of the poorest countries among the large countries in the whole world, and our native systems, cultural systems, educational systems, business systems, they were destroyed to a large extent. As a result, we became poor. But independence was a great occasion for this great country. Unfortunately, the people who ruled our country were not aware of this. So as a result, they tried to follow only the alien policies, whether it was economic policies or whether it was other kind of social, cultural approaches. They were all based on the Western thoughts only. If we take, for example, economics, the earlier rulers from 1950s onwards, they started following the socialistic approach, which was not suitable for us. In fact, this approach is not suitable for any other country, any country in the world. So as a result, this great country had to suffer, and in 1989-90, we did not even have the money to pay for our imports, so oil imports. As a result, we had to go and pledge our gold with the Bank of England to get some money so that we can pay the importers. This was the situation. But when the entire communism failed in USSR, with the then USSR breaking up into several pieces, the world accepted that the communism had failed. So India had another opportunity to apply policies which are suitable for her based on our own cultural backgrounds. But unfortunately again, people adopted this globalized approach, another Western approach, and as a result for the last 20-25 years we were facing difficulties in certain critical sectors like agriculture, small and medium enterprises and all. But in spite of it, our country has been growing. This is the most important point that we have to understand. In spite of confusions and contradictions at the policy making level, India has been growing. What is the reason? The reason is our background, our cultural backgrounds, our family, social backgrounds. So we have strong fundamentals with us. What has been helping us for thousands of years is helping us even today, even though the policy makers at the top level do not understand it. It is not just economic policy, it is other approaches also, whether it is social approach or approaches relating to our culture. Our ruling establishment had always had Western views. For example, Jawaharlal Nehru thought that India doesn't have any appreciable cultural background. As a result, he began advocating this secular outlook, which is completely wrong to a spiritual country like ours. This is a great country, we accepted everybody, we have our own unique qualities, but Jawaharlal Nehru interpreted it in the way that the Westerners have been advocating. As a result, till today we are suffering a lot in different periods. So this is the problem. Fortunately, Shri Narendra Modi came to power in 2014, and one of his major focus is Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas, emphasizing that development has to be all, with all joining together. And this is a very important event in the history of India in the last 1000 years. For the first time we have a leader who appreciates our culture, who follows our culture, and then who understands the background of India and pursues the development agenda based on our own civilizational backgrounds. So this is an important fact which we have to understand. In the last more than 4.5 years, there have been several developments happening in India. There are many development projects, infrastructure development for different sections of people, whether it was for ordinary women or for the young entrepreneurs or for youth or for the poorer sections of people. Lot of developments have been happening in the last 4.5 years. Unlike the earlier prime ministers who were depending on mainly on their promises, this prime minister makes promises and then tries to fulfill it before time. So he acts as per his schedule and then tries to complete everything. For example, after he became the prime minister, he found out that there were 18,500 villages that did not have electricity. He acted upon it, and today we don't have a village that doesn't have electricity. All villages have electricity today. This is just an example. So a lot of developments are happening. This is one aspect. Second, the biggest threat to us comes from our neighbor Pakistan in the name of Islamic fundamentalism, and he has taken serious steps today at the global level to isolate Pakistan, and as a result our security is assured. Not only that, due to several steps including this demonetization, now Naxalites have reduced their activities, many of them have surrendered, their attacks have reduced to a large extent. This is another aspect. At the global level, the respect for India is coming up. Whatever our country says today, it's largely accepted, whether it was yoga or, for example, in 2015 there was a climate conference at the global level. This climate issue is a serious issue affecting the lives of everybody in this planet. So the Western countries were not accepting the solutions provided as per the Kyoto Protocol. Our Prime Minister, based on our own ancient wisdom, presented a different concept based on simple living and then high thinking. The world accepted it, and one of the manifestations of that was focusing more on solar energy. So he presented that we had to have a solar alliance at the international level, International Solar Alliance, which is accepted today, and India is a founding member. So these are the developments that are happening at the global level. And above all these things, you know, we are a wounded civilization. For hundreds of years, Hindus of this country, majority people, one of the most pious people of this country, non-violent people of this country, they have been subjected to attacks, and they were not able to follow their culture openly. So for the first time we have a Prime Minister who goes to the temples, who goes to all our holiest of places anywhere in the world, and then presents to the world that he follows this Hindu Dharma. He doesn't have any hesitation. So this is an important turnaround in the independent history of India. So it is very important that he has to come to power in 2019 also. But we have to understand today that the international forces are against us and forces within the country are against us. So whether it is fundamentalist forces or the missionary forces or these Naxalite, leftist, Dravidian elements, different opposition parties, they have all joined together to fight against Modi. So their only agenda is to defeat Modi, and for that they are ready to do anything. So as a result, all opposition parties which have no agenda, most of them are family based parties, they have all joined together to form an alliance. It's not a permanent kind of alliance, but they have all joined together. So it is high time that we Indians have to understand this basic background and then see that Mr. Narendra Modi is elected to power once again. This is our duty. This is our duty to the children of our country, because if we want to see that the traditions, culture of this country has to be continued, the unity of this country, integrity of this country has to be protected, and the development process has to happen at the same time. It is important that Mr. Modi should come to power once again with a very huge majority. So as a result, we all have to dedicate ourselves for the next 3 months to see that Mr. Modi comes to power, for which we have to take all kinds of steps, and this Indian Economic and Cultural Center is trying to focus on this particular aspect for the next 3 to 4 months.